What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of June this year in 2024. And this was an absolutely solid month for vinyl finds. We have Hozier, the Rhino hi-fi release of Black Sabbath, some King Gizzard, the Vinyl Me Please pressing of T-Rex, a going out of print Rush release, new releases by Uncle Acid, Bowie, and much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Okay, so we are going to be kicking this haul off with some colored vinyl pressings of the band that is featured here on my t-shirt, and that is Ghost. Now, the first one is my favorite Ghost album, and this will sit nicely alongside my other two copies of this album. And then the other album will sit well with my three other copies, but they have a purpose in me owning them. And plus, I got an email blast from Loma Vista. They offered these as a bundle for $20 each, so they took a few bucks off them individually, which ain't too bad, but I was glad to get my hands on these. Plus, I'm really stoked for the movie Right Here, Right Now that's going to be coming to theaters this month. And yes, I will be seeing it in Cherry Hill when it does show later on this month, so I was feeling in the ghostly spirit. But the first record that I'm going to showcase, which is also my favorite Ghost album, is Infestissimum. This was their second album. They still kind of had a cool, heavy, cultish vibe to them at this point. Year Zero is the notable track that's still played live by the band. Body and Blood is great. Monstrance Clock. Goulet Zombie Queen is probably my favorite Ghost song. Per Aspera ad Inferi. I really wish they played more songs off of this album these days. Now, this pressing, I guess you could say, is a 10th anniversary pressing because last year in 2023, this album celebrated its 10th anniversary. And what's interesting is that for the first time ever domestically in the US, this album was released without the BC underneath the Ghost logo, because there was another band called Ghost, so to avoid any legal ramblings and just work through the loopholes, they would put BC underneath the Ghost logo on US copies of this album. So this is the first time that it has been pressed without that, so you can kind of see the artwork in a much more truer state. Still replicates the artwork, you know, from the original US pressing, which I do have, down to the gatefold with the cool band photo and the lyrics. Doesn't include the track-by-track illustrations featured on the European pressing, but here is the main reason why I got this, and it's the color of the vinyl, and it looks absolutely sick, and it fits the color scheme of the record so perfectly. It comes pressed on split orange and red colored vinyl, which looks absolutely tremendous. And this will sit well, like I said, alongside my other two copies of this album. This is one that I simply cannot get enough of. And then the next album has a bit of a special place in my heart because in my time becoming a Ghost fan, this was the first album that I was there to, you know, experience come out as brand new and be taken up in the excitement of, you know, all the release hype when it came out. And that is 2018's Perkel. Rats is on here, Dance Macabre, Faith. Now, interesting thing with this album, not only is this a color variant, but it is also a cover variant. And if you have this album in your collection, pull it out and take a look. Note where the horse is on the cover, because there are different covers out there that have the horse in different spots across the bottom of the jacket, and the jackets were distributed at random, so it's not like one particular jacket goes with one particular color. It kind of goes in a million different directions, so you can have several color variants that have this jacket, or one other jacket is with this. It's insane. Enough for someone with OCD like myself to get their hands on it. But I took a look, because when I got this, I took a look at some of the other copies I had, and I'm like, oh, the horse is in different positions. So it cures an itch, basically. But it's a solid record by any means, and comes with a nice printed inner sleeve with some lyrics as well as a band photo. And this comes pressed on tiger's eye colored vinyl. So it's basically like a marbled orange with little bits of black, and looks like there's some green, not so much green, but there's like some orange, some black, a little bit of white. It looks absolutely killer. So like I said, I was feeling in the ghostly spirit to pick up these really awesome colored pressings for a slightly discounted price. I always say sometimes that finding vinyl at a show is longer lasting than the $50 t-shirt that'll wear with time, or the $20 beer that'll exit your body as soon as it's in. So recently, my girlfriend and I went to go see Hozier in concert at the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion in Camden. I got her tickets for her birthday, which was back in April, and we finally went to the show. Overall, fantastic time. It was our first show together, and it was tremendous. And she actually treated me to his latest album, Unreal Unearthed, at the merch booth. And according to the merch lady, this was the last copy that they had, which was really cool. This album is absolutely solid. It is far different compared to his first two albums, which were kind of just written by himself and very much in his standard sound. This time around, he's working with some producers and outside writers, so it kind of takes on a bit of a different shape, but it still has that distinctive Hozier flair. Honestly, I picked up a lot of cool orchestral sort of elements on this album, which definitely broadens his palette very, very much. But overall, it is a very, very solid listen. Nice gatefold jacket, and he did a good amount of this record live. And so once I got around to listen to it, I'm like, oh, he played this, oh, he played that. So a very nice momentum from, like I said, my girlfriend and I's first concert. And thank you very much, Abby, for getting me this. Love you. All right, guys, so I recently got my very first Rhino high fidelity pressing. So Rhino Records has started their high fidelity sort of line of audiophile grade vinyl pressings of various albums in their catalog. And so far, it has been a very successful venture. All the titles, from what I have seen and heard, sound tremendously well. But I'm not going to lie, I kind of felt dejected at first because the first title that they had put out was the Cars debut, and I completely missed out on it because it sold out. But when I saw this album was getting reissued in this series, I know that there was no fucking around, pardon my French. So immediately, I remember driving on my way to work, I pulled over to place my order. That's how pressing this was. And needless to say, 5 days later it was sold out, and now it's selling for $150+. It's absolutely insane. But the album that I am talking about is one of the greatest debut albums of all time, and that is the self-titled debut by Black Sabbath. The birth of heavy metal, essentially. Title track, Behind the Wall of Sleep, NIB, The Wizard, Warning, Wicked World. It is all fantastic stuff. And I am so glad that Rhino decided to put this out as part of their high fidelity series. And just to kind of break it down, you basically get this nice sturdy obi strip, comes off just like that, which I'm not gonna lie, like compared to other obi strips that you get with more common just regular releases, the cardstock on this is absolutely deluxe. Nice bit of red inlay there, track list on the bottom, some specs about the pressing itself. Gatefold jacket, nice glossy tip-on Stoughton jacket, and there you see the Rhino High Fidelity logo. And as you can see, this is limited and numbered out of 5,000 copies. This is copy number 2,225. And while they replicate the original look of the American Warner Brothers pressing in terms of the track list and such, it does include the upside down cross gatefold, which appeared on the original UK Vertigo pressing. And then to provide some exclusivity, there is a nice 4-panel insert including scans of the Warner Brothers tape boxes, along with some liner notes by Tom Allum, who was one of the engineers. Great interview kind of talking about the making of the album and some of the technical specs behind the making of the album. And instead of using the olive green Warner Brothers label, Rhino High Fidelity has their own sort of custom label that they've used across all the releases of this series. So they kind of keep it all unison. And let me tell you, if you want to know how this pressing sounds, perhaps you should check out my review on trackingangle.com. The review that I wrote for this is absolutely glowing. It's been getting tons of traffic and attention. It's one of my favorite pieces that I've worked on. But seriously, if you were lucky to get your hands on this, this is probably the best sounding pressing of this album. But if you missed out on it, you're definitely missing out. 10 out of 10, or actually, according to my review, 11 out of 11. Okay, so I made another trip to the Haddonfield Record Exchange. This time around, I brought my dad. We did some shopping before we went to the Phillies game. Unfortunately, they lost on the given day that we went. But needless to say, it was a great time. He enjoyed the shop. And when I last went there in May, if you remember from my last Vinyl Haul video, I kind of mapped out my next trip there with the stuff that I had to put back in hopes that it would still be there when I returned. So needless to say, the stuff that I wanted was still there, and it was a successful venture. What did I pick up? Oddly enough, an album that I have only listened to for the first time in recent months. And shocking, given what I'm into. That is the Beck Boger Appice album. This was a one-off project featuring Jeff Beck on guitar, Tim Boger on bass, and Carmine Appice on drums. Just a great brewing piece of bluesy hard rock, and features a pre-Stevie Wonder released version of Superstition. There's some interesting backstory behind how Jeff Beck is kind of involved in the composition of the track, but yet he's not credited. A little bit of minutia that I think is definitely worth exploring. This is a Friday Music reissue that was still sealed. I don't think this is currently in print right now. And it does feature a gatefold featuring a photo of Jeff Beck. I don't think this was included in the original, or maybe it was. Someone out there can confirm it. Because typically Friday Music likes to do, fancy gatefolds for all their original single pocket releases. Does replicate the orange Epic label perfectly. And the first time that I actually listened to this was thanks to the keyboard player of the Genesis show, which is the Genesis tribute band that I work for. We were listening to this on the way to a gig, and then my dad is a major fan of this record, so it kind of felt fitting to purchase this album, with my dad out, on a record shopping venture. So that was cool. And then if you remember from when I went last month, I did pick up a King Gizzard album. It was 12 Bar Brews. Now, there was another King Gizzard album that I kind of wanted more because I hadn't seen it out in the wild for a while, but it was priced a little bit higher than 12 Bar. So I ended up just buying 12 Bar on the principle that it was kind of a little bit cheaper, but I hoped that this would still be there when I went back. And I'm so glad that this is in my collection, and this is a Gizzard album that I am so curious to listen to and dig into, and that is Paper Mache Dream Balloon. Now, for as much as King Gizzard perfectly executes that noisy wall of sound, this right here is their acoustic album. And when it comes to their sense of melody, they really do shine in that department, and I think this album is a prime example of that. So I am all for checking this album out. Also, I am getting some very strong Magical Mystery Tour vibes just from this album artwork. It looks absolutely great. Now, this is a deluxe edition that came out, I want to say a couple years back. Features a nice little Obi strip here. 2 LP set. The main LP obviously consists of the main record. And then if you want some background accompaniment, you can go ahead and listen to the album instrumentally with no vocals. So, like I said, this was another successful venture out to the Haddonfield Record Exchange. And sometime next month, I will be going back. And of course, you will know what I get and who I go shopping with. Okay, so this album has been out for a hot minute. And shockingly, while I was kind of encapsulated by the hype surrounding this album, given that this band has been together for 60 plus years and they're still putting out new music, I did not get my hands on a copy when this first was released. And yeah, there was a couple of cool variants that I had my eye on, but it was just kind of a thing where I would approach it at whenever I would. And needless to say, I was at Target with Abby recently, and I noticed that this album was on the rack, and it had that little yellow clearance sticker on it. Shockingly, given what this band is. But needless to say, it was the case of right price, right time. And I copped a copy of the Rolling Stones' Hackney Diamonds. This is their most newest album that just came out the tail end of 2023. Angry, the lead-off single, is great. I really enjoyed that. The track with Lady Gaga, Sweet Sounds of Heaven, is really solid. Rolling Stone Blues is good as well. I've heard a couple of tracks here and there, but I've yet to experience the album as a whole. And honestly, I kind of picked this up to kind of get my Stones fix because I'm kind of feeling a little blue that I missed the Philly show since they came around on their Hackney Diamonds tour. So I figured I would cop this. Now, since I mentioned that this is marked as clearance from Target, this is also the Target exclusive pressing, which comes with a nice printed inner sleeve, glossy gatefold jacket, and it comes pressed on clear purple colored vinyl. Kind of matches the color scheme of the artwork quite nicely. So very happy to have, and also it's crazy to say that I have here in 2024 the newest album by the Rolling Stones. So one of the popular mainstays in Ocean City, New Jersey is indeed the Surf Mall, which has such a wide selection of posters, band t-shirts, as well as records. While the selection is not too shabby, the prices are kind of what kill you because let's face it, it's boardwalk prices. But needless to say, I know I've said it before, probably in a previous video and somewhere on social media. Every time my girlfriend Abby and I go out on a little adventure, I always try to buy some vinyl to commemorate the day. So of course we found ourselves in Ocean City, checked out the Surf Mall, and I took a browse in their vinyl section because sometimes, depending on what you might come across, you know, if you're kind of in the know of what values are of certain things, whether it be old or new pressings, you might come across a little gold mine. In this case, I just found another King Gizzard record. And when I see one out in the wild that I don't have, I just kind of pick it up. And this one is Fishing for Fishies. So this is kind of like their environmentalist album. A bit more on the lighter melodic side of their artistry. And I believe the follow-up after this was Infest the Rat's Nest, which is kind of taking those same sort of themes, but in a more darker metal kind of vein. So you kind of get polar opposites between this record and that album. But the title track is a bit of good fun, has a great kind of humorous music video. So I figured I would cop this while I can. This does have a giant fold-out poster of the band members, which is pretty cool. Opens up just like this. Hope you guys can see all that. Nice printed inner sleeve here with band photos and lyrics. And this is dubbed the U.S. Toxic Landfill Edition. And it comes pressed on this wonderful piece of marbled green vinyl. And sure enough, little by little, that King Gizzard collection is getting beefed up. So truth be told, even though I own a lot of pressings by this company in my collection, I have never signed on as a Vinyl Me Please member. I have bought releases of theirs from Discogs. I have bought records from their website as a non-member. But as of lately, the rock track has been pretty consistent to my taste, at least, between Black Sabbath as well as Heart. I figured that I would sign up to the club and get myself a monthly membership. And the album choice for this month for the rock track in June was enticing enough for me to check it out for myself because this album has kind of been on my radar for some time. And that is the self-titled release by T-Rex. So this was after Tyrannosaurus Rex shortened their name, and Mark Bolan decided to hone in on that glam rock sound that would become synonymous with T-Rex in the years to come. And this right here, of course, comes with a nice little Obi strip, and as stated, mastered from the original master tapes. And they did replicate these sort of, I guess you could say, like photo pin-up gatefold style jacket, which opens up just like this, so you can kind of pin this on your wall. And then it opens up and you have all the lyrics right here, which is a nice touch. And then inside you have a little booklet insert, which has some artwork as well as photos and liner notes, like all Vinyl Me Please Record of the Month pressings have. And then, according to the OB, this is pressed on what is called Jewel of Frost colored vinyl. So it's kind of like a Coke bottle green, and it replicates that reprise label. And like I said, this is an album that's been kind of on my radar. When it comes to T-Rex, I absolutely love Electric Warrior, as well as the Slider. And I also have that Japanese compilation that came out some time ago for Record Store Day. That's a great listen. So I figured this would be the next step in my T-Rex journey, and to gladly say that I am now a Vinyl Me Please member. Okay, so we're wrapping up this haul with a sort of mini haul within a haul itself. And mark my words, these are going to be the last records that I purchase until I meet up with my good buddies, the youngest members of the VC, this summer. We are meeting up very, very soon. And if you're watching this video when it goes up, we are going to be announcing where we will be meeting up very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But anyways, this is a stack of some relatively newly released releases, along with one that's actually going out of print that I'll showcase first. And I was really glad that I jumped on this, and it kind of was back in the market briefly before it kind of sold out. And that is the 40th anniversary edition of Rush Hemispheres. Now, Hemispheres is my favorite Rush album. This came out back in 2018, and I kind of held off on picking up some of those 40th anniversary Rush vinyl packages, mainly because I already had the 2015 reissues. They kind of mucked with the artwork a little bit. They kind of made it up to date and special for the anniversary. But as time went on, I got the ones for Permanent Waves as well as Moving Pictures, but this was a missing piece. Mainly because it featured a live performance from the Pink Pop Festival from 1979, which kind of has now seeped itself in these sort of gray market legal bootleg circles, but I didn't want to kind of settle for that. I wanted to get it in its official sort of form. So when I saw that this was kind of back out in the market and it was going to be out of print and deleted from Universal's catalog, I went ahead and got my hands on this. So I parted ways with my 2015 reissue. Now, this is the outer box, kind of flimsy and cheap, but the contents inside are obviously what makes it. So as you see, they kind of recycle some elements from the original artwork, but they kind of make it look a little sort of up to date. You get the original photos from the cover design with some newly designed graphics, along with some new custom center labels. So it really is a special package that commemorates the anniversary. And then here is the live LP, 2 LPs. Also comes with a bonus performance of 2112 live in Arizona. So it kind of paints a more full, complete picture of a Hemisphere show from this album cycle. And then you also get this nice little booklet, which has liner notes, illustrations, as well as some behind-the-scenes studio shots. There's a couple of live shots in here as well, which look really cool. So happy to kind of cross this sort of thing off my my want list that's kind of been on there for a little while. Happy to get it. Next up is one of the more recent releases that Analog Productions has put out as part of their Atlantic 75 series. I have reviewed several for Tracking Angle, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice Cooper, Bad Company. All of them are fantastic. And when I saw this come in at the shop that I'm now at, I figured I would pull the trigger on, yes, 90125. This album kind of, I don't want to say broke Yes into the mainstream, but they crossed the threshold into the 80s with this album. Of course, this features Trevor Rabin on it. You get Tony Kaye back on keyboards. You also have, of course, Chris Squire, Alan White, and John Anderson. And it is an absolutely solid 80s sort of pop album. You have Owner of a Lonely Heart, Hold On, It Can Happen, Leave It, Changes. It's a solid record. Obviously, 2 LPs, 45 RPM, all analog. However, this is cut from a half-inch tape copy of the original master tape, but I'm sure it's still going to sound fantastic. Printed inner sleeve is integrated into a nice gatefold, and even though it is Atlantic, this was put out on the ACO label, so it is replicated there. And I haven't listened to this album in a while. I had the Friday Music pressing, which I parted ways with to get this, and if I have the time, maybe I'll review it for Tracking Angle. Very busy these days, so I'm hoping to get around to that and revisit this album. Next up is a brand new album by one of my favorite modern metal bands, and that is Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. And this album is called Nel Ora Blue. This one is kind of interesting. From my understanding, this is kind of like almost like one of those sort of like BBC teleplay kind of albums. Not exactly British, but it's kind of an ode to those like Italian horror, murder, mystery kind of films. There's a lot of spoken word dialogue. There's some songs. It's not, I think, from what I've heard, it's not as heavy as some of their other albums. But it is still unique, and it still very much holds up to the sort of Uncle Acid zeitgeist of just obvious nods to a bunch of stuff from the past. So I'm pretty excited about it. Here you have all the lyrics and dialogue together. And this initial pressing, I believe, is limited to 2,000 copies. We get some nice, cool, eerie printed inner sleeves to match the storyline, and it comes pressed on purple vinyl. So I am really excited to dig into this. And then kind of to piggyback off of the box set first look that I did for David Bowie's Rock and Roll Star. Obviously, that was a 5 CD Blu-ray box set, which I cannot thank Rhino enough for sending me to both unbox and review for Tracking Angle. But I also seeked out the vinyl LP equivalents of Rock and Roll Star. Now, the LP contains all of the alternate takes and remixes that are featured in the box set. So in terms of the alternate takes, you get Hang On To Yourself, Star, as well as Lady Stardust, and then you also get some non-album tracks that did not make it onto the record, such as Shadow Man, and It's Gonna Rain Again, and then you also have a lot of other well-known outtakes like Round and Round, Velvet Goldmine, Holy Holy. You get a version of The Who's I Can't Explain, which predates the Pinups version. So it's a nice package, very glossy and shiny. I feel like I should be wearing gloves with that just because you can see the fingerprints, but the silver motif is also replicated on the label there. And as you see, it does say Bowie instead of RCA, just like the time era that the Ziggy album was released in. But overall, the new mixes, when I listen to the box set, sound awesome, and I cannot wait to experience them on vinyl. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of June this year in 2024. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.